It is 14:33 Pacific Standard Time, or PST, Daylight Savings Time, DST. And it is almost the last day of August, 2022. It's the 30th of August. And I'm putting in a new power steering pump on this Duramax here. And the thing is, when you put a new power steering pump on, it's real simple. You don't need many tools actually, but it has 3 hoses that go to it. 2 of them merely require like a pair of slip joint pliers like that. Those are snap-on. And to pull off 2 of the hoses, you got to use a big screwdriver, maybe like this one. It might help to push the end of the hose off the nipple which comes off the power steering pump. There's two which have clamps on them, factory clamps, spring-loaded clamps. You just squeeze those and get that off there. But the other one has a 16mm, so you need a 16mm, maybe an offset or combination, or this is probably going to be pretty tight. The 16mm flare. Probably want to use a 16mm flare nut wrench. Actually, they're a little bit better than an open end, but an open end will work. But to get that 3rd hydraulic line off the back of your power steering pump, and so it has 2 brackets. The rear bracket actually is very simple. Those two holes right there. There's 2 capscrews that go through that. They're pretty long ones actually, about 20mm, and those require a 15mm combination wrench. And this one here actually holds a wire. Is the ground or power, one or the other. So you need a 10mm to get that off there, and has a little cap screw in there. But one thing you do need though, that's actually my socket. That's my impact. This is a Matco. Is that a Matco? No, it's a snap-on. That's 15mm right there is a snap-on. It's an impact 3/8. Then I have this adapter, which is an impact also. It goes from 1/2 inch to 3/8. And these 4 cap screws right here. You actually, oh my gosh, I guess I was wrong about that. But that one's just by itself, and then these 3 here, you don't. Well, no, I was correct. You cannot get that to those cap screws until you have this baby, which is a Kentmore power steering pump puller, and so you also got to have an installer. So that the installer, let's see, where's my little note here. The installer is a Kentmore, K-E-N-T with a little dash, then capital M-O-O-R-E, Kentmore. They're General Motors parts, or tools actually. And if you deal with a reputable General Motors dealership for your engines and all types of stuff like that, and you can get those tools from those guys actually. And they're exactly what you need. Just like this tool right here. It's see how it's black? That means it's heat treated. That's like grade 8. And it's like that. That's a power steering puller. And you cannot do this job without that. But also, you've got to have, because you have to pull that pulley there to get to those 4 cap screws down there that are holding those. And this is a power steering pump pulley installer. That's just a bearing right there. So you got to have that too. And and I'm just going to put a new. I didn't have to put a new pulley on, but you might notice this pulley here. Look, it has a D on there. That probably means Duramax. See how it's flat right there? And if you look at this one, it's round right there. But this looks really good actually. And those serpentine belts, oh my gosh, they're good. Serpentine are quite a bit like cogged belts on H.V.A.C, heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems. Cogged belts, they don't have as much heat buildup. They last longer. They don't stretch as much. Well, actually, initially they do stretch a little bit, but it's possible to get 250,000 miles, excuse me, or more out of your serpentine belt. See how that has all those grooves in there? So say if you are looking at your belt, and your belt is narrower than all these little lands and grooves in here, that probably means you have a bearing out on some component. So you have tensioners, and you have one tensioner on there which has a pulley on it. Then you also have some other ones which are just idlers. And I must admit, since GM came out with their Duramax, the first ones were not that great. The first tensioner and stuff, and now they've made huge improvements. So that's why I'm not just going to go ahead and put this pulley right here back on, even though it's perfectly fine. I'm going to put that one on, the brand new one. And so, like I said, you have to have a puller. Kentmore, you can find those in different places too. But the Kentmore J250-33, that's this. Kentmore J250, and you got to use like a 19 millimeter and a 25 millimeter. I just use that big adjustable right there. Actually, it's a beautiful Blue Point. Blue Point is a snap-on brand. But 25, I'd rather use a 25. I guess got to get a 25 combo. I don't know if I have one. I don't think I have a 25 combo, which is ridiculous. But yeah, this is tool right here. This tool actually cost me about $170. But now I have it. And so this tool here, this is much cheaper. This installer, that bearing comes off there. This inside the shaft right there, it's a hex. It's hex on the end there, but it has threads in there too. So that's how this works. The threads in there. So it's almost better to put my new power steering pump is rebuilt, but it's GM rebuilt. It's very good rebuilt. So these threads thread in there, and it's like those are left-hand threads. Well, part of this is left-hand threads, part are right-hand threads. But the thing is, like one time I bought a power starter for this dump truck. I was working for this guy, and he's doing asphalt work and stuff with his dump truck, and the starter went out. So I went to this place in Portland called Willamette Electric, and they hired all these guys from the country down south of us who also flooded our housing market up here. When it used to be able to make a pretty good living and have a pretty good job as a carpenter, just building houses. But then all the people from down south came up here, and they, oh my gosh, they just don't do quality of work, I'm sorry to say. And those guys are notorious for smoking pot and like just being zoned out and stuff. Like, I'm not saying smoking pot is bad necessarily, like some genius, but if you don't have many brain cells in the first place, you probably shouldn't do that. The same as like drinking a beer or whatever. The thing is, like they also overtook the some things like that down in Portland, Willamette Electric. So I put the starter in this guy's truck, and it wouldn't work. So he's going, what the heck? He's trying to blame it on me. So I pull it back out and I look at it, and I realize the guy who rebuilt that at Willamette Electric in Portland down there forgot to put this cotter key in the pin which goes through holds the starter solenoid linkage. Oh my God, which would move your Bendix basically. So I go, wow, they let that out. So I crawl back under. It's like that's why when I talked to GM about this, I was buying from DSU GMC a lot of parts and stuff. I bought engines from them and all types of stuff. But I go rebuilt, because when my truck was brand new, I should have bought 3 brand new power steering pumps. What I should have done, because after a while you can't even get new parts, certain parts. But he told me that's a big difference between rebuilt and GM rebuilt. So I go, oh, so now I know, because my new power steering pump is probably just as good as new. But you must have this puller and installer to do this job, though. And what's interesting is this shaft here. It's just tapered. It has no cap screw on there whatsoever holding the pulley on. And it's like it must be like a double taper or something like that, because you have to have a special installer to get it on there and everything. So that's why another reason why it's better to put a new pulley on there and everything. So yeah, I'm going to get this baby back on the road in a minute here and stuff. And yeah, transmission fluid, ATF, works for power steering fluid. And you can see the shaft seal there was leaking, so it's probably the bearing got a little loose maybe or whatever and stuff. So well, I'm more reliable now and stuff. And I am so grateful about some of the simple problems I've had with my Duramax. Like nothing. This thing runs like a top. Oh my gosh, it runs so good. It's just broken in. Duramax, the best diesel engine. Japanese. No one's made Isuzu. No one's made diesel engines longer than Isuzu except for Peugeot. And Isuzu, oh my gosh, they're the best. Some of the very best diesels. But not only that, GM has been making diesels since the 40s and stuff, the late 30s actually. Two-stroke the Detroit Diesel Allison. So all these idiots who have Dodges and Fords and go, oh, I don't want that Japanese engine, they're idiots. That's all I can say, they're idiots. But because you just can't find a better, it's very hard to find a better diesel than an Isuzu actually. So like yeah, they're like the brakes are the best. The brakes are the best. And I put new lower control arms, new axle, drive shaft, rotors, calipers, parking brake shoes, and so on and so forth. And of course, the lower control arm and upper control arm come with ball joints. And you don't want to just put ball joints on. But yeah, Snap-on, they're the best. Duramax, they're the best. GM, they're the best. Australian Shepherds, they're the best.